Welcome to the Industry 4.0 Club's Fireside Chat. The club's purpose is to engage the power of diverse worldwide talent to accelerate the global evolution to Industry 4.0. We accomplish this by hosting and supporting respectful, thoughtful, and interdisciplinary open conversations and creating quality content on wide-ranging Industry 4.0 topics to expand the reach of our community. My name is Mike Ungar, and I'm the CEO of the Industry 4.0 Club. I have over 40 years of leadership experience in manufacturing, primarily at Michelin. I'm joined today by my co-host, Mike Yost. Mike is one of the co-founders of the Industry 4.0 Club. Mike, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Wouldn't mind at all. Thank you, Mike. As Mike said, my name is Mike Yost. I'm a volunteer chairman and one of the co-founders of the club, and I'm also Mike's co-host here on our Fireside Chats. And I've been in industry just south of 40 years myself on the solution provider side, and for the last over 15 years on the nonprofit side. So really excited to have everybody with us here today, and would like to take a moment to let you know we have the pleasure today to speak with Dan Joe Barry, who is the Vice President of Product Marketing for Configit. We're going to speak to Dan Joe about the complexity or mastering the complexity of customization and personalization, get to know a bit about him and his company and some of the things that they are up to. So by way of a brief introduction, Dan Joe helps technical companies market complex products and services more effectively. From product marketing strategy to planning and delivery of marketing content, Dan Joe provides an end-to-end perspective based on 30 years of experience in a variety of technical, marketing, sales, product, and strategy roles in telecom and IT industries. Dan Joe has a BS in electrical engineering and an MBA from Trinity College in Dublin.
Thanks, Mike. So just a quick minute to talk about the summit that's being put on by Configit. Configit's hosting the 11th Configuration Lifecycle Management, otherwise known as CLM Summit, on May 6th and 7th, 2026. This event's going to focus on how manufacturers can master customization, complexity by establishing a strong data foundation for future growth. Held virtually over 2 half days, the summit brings together B2B manufacturing leaders to explore how connecting systems, data, and logic enables organizations to manage complexity more effectively. We'd like you to discover how the CLM approach links systems and configuration logic across the enterprise, turning product complexity into confident decisions throughout the product lifecycle. So we're excited about the summit, and welcome, Dan Joe. Glad you could join us for this fireside chat.
Thanks very much. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so just to get to know you a bit more, Dan Joe, you began your career with a background in electrical engineering before moving into product marketing. From that perspective, what are the biggest sources of complexity manufacturers face today when trying to offer customized products at scale?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's not something that they think about a lot. There is a transition that's happening from mass production to mass customization, and it's been ongoing for a while. And the latest statistics are showing that the majority of manufacturers now offer some sort of customization. And then the issue is, well, how are they actually facing challenges in trying to do that? Mainly trying to do it profitably and being able to do it at scale. And so that's the issues that we address as Configit. That's the reason why we exist. But to give you an idea of that, if you think about it in manufacturing, we really still organize as if we were selling Ford Model Ts. We have different departments which are siloed, doing their own thing. Great for specialization, which is one of the things you need for mass production, but not great for if you want to do cross-functional things. So you have engineering departments and sales departments and manufacturer operations departments and service departments that are all within their own silos with their own systems and data formats and how they approach things, even different languages and culture, which makes it difficult for them to collaborate when doing this. So that's one of the challenges in itself, in the sense that you're set up for mass production, but you're trying to do mass customization. And the reason why we have this mass customization issue is that you really have an increase in both B2C and B2B customers looking for customization and personalization. It's something that all of us as individuals have come to expect, that we can get what we want the way we want it.
Right.
So then you have a situation of how do you meet that requirement then as a manufacturer, organized the way you are. So if you want to look at it, there's three different approaches to doing that. So traditionally, the easiest way of doing it is to say, I'll do engineer to order. I'll basically make what the customer asks me to make. So if you want to think about a company as an example, it'd be someone like making engines for cruise ships, right? A cruise ship is getting built and you need to make an engine in there. It's going to be bespoke. So what happens there is that your best engineers sit down with the customer and they work out, what the customer needs and go back and forth on what a potential solution could be. Then the commercial people getting involved to try and find out what should we price this thing at? How do we ensure that we're not going to go into negative numbers here with that, where the engineers again have to get involved and look at the risks. Right. It's a long drawn out process. Your best people are being used for it. And there is the risk that you're going to lose money on this thing if things go wrong. But the customer gets exactly what they want. So that's why engineer to order is actually something you see a lot in manufacturing. The other way you could approach this, which other manufacturers do, is to do product variants. So you basically build up a portfolio of hundreds or even thousands of product variants that are similar but not quite the same. So then you're trying to cover all of those different choices that might be out there. You're trying to meet 80% of the needs, but you know that there's a lot of needs you're not going to meet. And I mentioned it's like, you could have hundreds or thousands of these product variants, but if you think about it, that's not even a drop in the ocean of what could be delivered to the customer.
Right.
Just to give you an idea of that, we worked with an automobile company and looked at, okay, how many ways could you combine all the options that were in that car, like the hardware, the mechanics, the software, all the different options, even commercial options. How many of those combinations are valid? And it turned out there was 5.8 by 10 to the power of 21. Right?
Yep.
That's not the biggest that we've seen.
That's a lot, by the way.
Yeah. It's very hard to get your head around it.
Right.
But
I know.
I mean, that's more than the grains of sand on Earth, I think. So it's So you think about that point of view, even if you come with thousands of product variants, it's not going to be enough, right? You're not going to cover all the different needs.
No, you end up doing a market analysis, and like you alluded to, you choose the 80%. You get the middle where the demand is greatest, so you just don't serve the outliers. That's what you have to decide to do in many cases.
Well, what happens is you are kind of forced to do it because your biggest customers are going to, again, demand, I need this in this way for my needs, right? And if you don't service my needs, I'll get someone who will. So you end up making new product variants based on these customers' requirements. So the tactic normally used is a clone and own tactic. I'll take an existing product variant that's kind of close, and I'll adapt that, and then I'll deliver that to the customer. So the net result of all of this is that you will have thousands of these product variants that are similar but not quite the same, with little pieces of difference between them, and then you're trying to manage all of that and maintain all of that, and then just finding a starting point for the next clone and own becomes an issue, right?
Right. Plus you end up with that most often because you can't predict exactly how many of each variant you need. You end up with inventory that you can't sell. You have to discount to move on top of that.
Yeah, because the whole idea of having product variants is that you're offering that. So you're hoping there's a match between what the customer is looking for and what you can deliver. But then you have to keep the inventory to be able to deliver that, right? So there's a cost involved here as well. So those are two different approaches that a lot of manufacturers have used. And then there's the final approach, which is configure to order. And of course, I'm simplifying this. Obviously, there's lots of nuances in between. But the configure to order approach is to say, okay, I'm going to modularize my architecture and I'll be able to assemble it to meet a certain need, but I'll offer the customer choices in each module. So this is, when you're going to an automobile configurator, that's exactly what you're looking at. You're looking at, I'm going to choose the color, I'm going to choose the wheels. I'm controlling what I'm offering to you, right? So I'm defining what's going to be offered to you and giving you those choices. But then the combination of those choices is something I've got to manage. And like I said, for that car manufacturer, that can be up into 10 to the power 21. I think the biggest one we've seen is something like 10 to the power 200, So that's a big Excel sheet if you have to do it in Excel. So
well, it's a big cost as well, right? Like, I mean, when I talk with consumers, basically we can blame ourselves, right? Because we're the ones that expect what we want, when we want, the way we want it. And we don't want to sacrifice quality. We don't want to sacrifice costs, right? We don't want to pay more. But all of those things that you're just talking about, all those different options add to the complexity for a manufacturer of actually producing those parts and getting those to market. So I guess just, one of the promises that we have from Industry 4.0 is that it does allow manufacturers to be more customer focused, right? So the things we're talking about, we've been working on these ideas and promising mass customization for a long time, but that's one of the core value propositions of Industry 4.0 is that a manufacturer can be more customer focused, and then obviously the topics we've been discussing so far add to the complexity of customization, personalization, et cetera. So can you talk a bit about the common pitfalls that you see if companies are trying to scale and offer all sorts of these different customization options, but they don't have the right configuration data foundation under them?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest one is that we go back to the way we're organized. A lot of the problems that you face start to get diagnosed with the lens of the department you're sitting in, right? So you try to solve it within your silo. So if you're engineering, I mean, obviously you're heavily involved in all of these three different approaches, but you really want to just focus on what you do, which is the engineering design and the technical options. You don't really want to have to deal with the marketing options or where you're going to sell this thing under which conditions and regulatory options. And you don't want to be dealing with which factory is going to make it and which suppliers are going to use and all of these things. You try not to get involved with that. You often have to get involved, but when you run into problems like there's, the sales have sold something that we can't deliver, it's very hard to untangle that then, because that's not something that's within a silo. It's because there's no communication between the silos. That's the problem. So we see a lot of misdiagnosis. You see, if the engineers are seeing it, they're trying to do a new PLM module or something like that. They're buying a new engineering tool so they can maybe take more control earlier. If it's on the sales side, and we see this a lot, you see a lot of manufacturers going through their second, third, fourth CPQ system, trying to get that to solve the problem. And really the actual issues lie between them. It's because there's a misalignment between what the engineering designed and what sales are offering, because those systems are not connected. They haven't got a common data foundation between them, so they can agree on what we're offering and how we're offering it. So that is part of what we try to address. So we are a cross-functional solution. We're not trying to replace anything, but we're trying to work with the existing systems and the data and trying to bring all of those, all that data that's relevant together in a place where it can be managed and everyone can collaborate on it.
I know. I hate to spend all time on problems and challenges, so we'll get off this. But I just think about now as we talk about the age that we're in, like almost every product that people are manufacturing now has software embedded in it, right? Yeah. So software becomes a bill of material component, and then we all know how quickly that software upgrades and version controls of those sorts of things. So I would imagine it gets even more and more complex as people are modernizing the products that they're offering and offering like software embedded into the products and such. Do you see that?
Well, that's introducing a lot of complexity, and it's one of the reasons that you see this exploding. So one thing is actually embedding software in the design. So now you have to get the mechanical and the electrical and the software to all work together. So you have to make sure that the right version of the software is being matched with the right mechanical and electrical components. But then you also have to manage it over time, and you have to manage it after the sale. So if you think about it, modern vehicles now, modern automobiles, let's stay with that example, you can download features now.
Right.
So you can actually get new capabilities in your car that you can pay for. So now there's after-sales purchases going on, right? And what we find a lot is there's two areas where there's problems. One is managing what you're offering, right? So making sure that all of the options that are the technical options that are defined in engineering and the manufacturing options and the commercial options, that they're all aligned and that you actually are offering what you want to offer. So controlling that is one half of the problem. But the other half of the problem then is actually managing what you have delivered. So if you imagine you've got a customer who's in there, they've gone into a self-service configurator, they've made a lot of different choices about what they want, and they get the configuration that they're looking for and say, yes, please deliver that to me. If you've done the work beforehand, fine. Now we have everything aligned. I can deliver that, and you do it. So now you've delivered a configuration to them. That delivered configuration is going to be slightly different to what they ordered. The as-ordered configuration they gave was based on the options that were offered to them at the sales point. But when you're actually manufacturing it and delivering it, there'll be other options that you need to set in order to deliver it, right? There's the choice you have to make during manufacturing and delivery in order to do that.
Yes.
The as-delivered configuration will be richer. There'll be more information in there.
For sure.
And you need that configuration when you start to do service on this, so that you can actually see, well, what was it exactly that was delivered to this customer, so I know the spare parts I need to bring and other things that I need to do. But manufacturers are not actually very good at that, managing what was delivered and managing what was serviced afterwards.
Yeah.
They don't keep the configurations. They're managing the product in the product lifecycle management system, but they're not actually managing the configurations that were sold to the customer. Because the customer's not buying a product now, they're buying a configuration of the product.
Right.
So you actually see this in the after-sales services, the ones who really pay for this. Because suddenly something that should take only a few hours starts to take a few weeks. Because you got to figure out, well, what is the configuration I have? Maybe I have to go into the field and figure it out. Maybe I even have to take the machine apart to find out what the configuration is. And then I got to figure out how I can make it valid and what parts do I need and how many changes do I need to make in order to make this thing work again, right?
So you've talked about these challenges. A lot of our folks within our community, industry 4.0 community, may not be familiar with the term configuration lifecycle management, and you mentioned software. So can you talk for a moment about how CLM connects systems, product data, and configuration logic across the enterprise to really help manufacturers deal with this challenge that you've described?
Yeah, and I can understand the confusion because, you have a concept called configuration management in engineering, and it's not that. And we have contract lifecycle management, which is also CLM. So it's unfortunate that we have this abbreviation that can cause so much confusion, but I'll try to demystify it if I can. So basically, CLM is an approach to how you solve some of these kind of problems that we were talking about. And at its core, it's about collecting all of the relevant data from different systems and bringing it together. So, if you're offering configurable products, for example, you're going to have technical options and rules in engineering. You're going to have commercial options and rules in your SAP or ERP or your CPQ system, CRM. You'll have operational rules and other things in your MES. So we try to bring those things together into a shared product model. And that's where you define all your features and options and properties, and the rules then about the interdependencies between them. So you manage that as a central model. It's in the same format, so everybody has access to it. So now we've established a common language that we can all agree on. We're calling things the same thing, right? So we don't have any misunderstandings in that regard. All the rules are in one place. So we're able to consolidate that information into something common that you can all work together on. So right there, you're starting to break down the silos by bringing the data together and also helping people to work together on the same shared source of truth. Once you bring it in, we have the technology in Configit to actually compile that information beforehand. So rather than trying to figure out in the configuration process itself, as people are making choices, what we can offer to them, we actually do a pre-calculation of all the valid combinations based on that model, which can be as many as I was saying, 10 to the power 200. We're using a technology called virtual tabulation, which in essence is like a huge Excel file, but it can handle that kind of size, 10 to the power 200, and really represent that in a very compact format. So what you end up with is a file which is only a few megabytes large, even for something as big as that. But then that becomes a lookup file. So if you didn't want to validate, okay, I've got this configuration, is it valid? It's a simple lookup. If it's in the file, it's valid. If it's not, it's not. But because we have the full overview in this file, you can start to do analysis on it. And you have a full overview of what is possible. So during a configuration process, if somebody is trying to choose things and there's a clash because actually these things don't go together, then we can actually guide the customer and say, okay, if you can't choose that, we can actually give you advice on what is the fewest number of changes you need to make in order to get something valid. So there's a lot of advantages of doing this calculation or compilation on it. But one of the other things you get then is that once you have this overview of all of the different combinations that are possible, you can start to analyze that then. So you can see the impact of changes that you make. You can actually analyze it to say, am I offering the right things to the market? So you can do sort of portfolio optimization and these sort of things. So you can actually work and do analysis on this. And of course, the good thing is because you're doing this compilation, you will actually find out where there are gaps and errors and misalignments and stuff like that. So we're not just doing it for the product models, we are also doing it for the BOMs. So we can actually see if there's any misalignment in the BOMs as well. And you can do analysis on that. So it's the product models and the BOMs, and you're making sure the product model and the BOM are also connected. So there's a lot of things you can do with this technology then to prepare yourself so you can absolutely be certain that what you're offering to the market is valid and can be delivered. So that's basically the approach that we're taking. And if you're coming from a PLM background, like product lifecycle management, it's the same idea. Product lifecycle management is, in essence, an approach. We often confuse it with PLM systems, but PLM as a concept is also an approach that stretches across, engineering, manufacturing, and service. We're just doing the same thing, but we're trying to do it also across sales because that's important for configurable things. But we're not just managing product; we're managing the product configurations. So we're often an add-on, let's say, to the PLM approach, but we're just doing it at the configuration granularity. So that might be some reference for people on the call.
If I could, I just want to remind everybody that we are speaking here with Dan Joe Barry, the Vice President of Product Marketing for Configit. He's talking about mastering the complexity of customization and personalization through the configuration lifecycle management. Rich discussion, lots of opportunities to learn here, Dan Joe, so appreciate that. I'm wondering for those, if we have business leaders that are listening in today, wondering about the first steps that they should take. What do you recommend they do to get started at building the right data foundation to scale customization? And I guess another layer to that is it different if you're one of those business leaders in the silos you mentioned, right? If I'm a PLM leader versus I'm, executive leader versus a manufacturing leader, what do you recommend people do to get started to solve this problem?
Yeah, and there's a number of layers to this as well. I mean, I think one of the things that's important as well is to understand how this is perceived by the executive management as well. I think right now there's a lot of manufacturers who are very focused on trying to improve margins, avoid margin leakage. They're trying to clear backlogs, for having difficulty in actually executing and getting things out the door. We have geopolitical issues and tariffs and other challenges that are in the supply chain. So there's a lot of concerns at that level, and this approach that we're taking for configurable products actually helps with all of those issues. So I think it's also important to frame it in terms of what the overall business needs here as well. Because as I mentioned earlier, for each one of those managers there, they may well be experiencing some of these issues, but they're seeing it within their silo and they're trying to solve it within their silo.
Right.
So it does take somebody to kind of see this holistically and think, hang on a minute, let's dig into this and see where did this actually come from? What is the real source of the problem, right? And it is a question of disconnected data and fragmented data that you're trying to align manually, often in document-driven processes. And you might ask the question, why don't we run into this issue more often? The reason is that you usually have some heroes on the floor who do kind of understand things holistically from end to end. And they're the guys who are the firefighters every day just making this work. There was we were talking about one of our partners, Deloitte, and they shared a little story about a customer they were working with recently, where they needed to make sure that the manufacturing BOM and the engineering BOM were aligned. So the solution to that was for a guy with a pencil and a 150-meter long piece of paper to go through line by line and make sure everything was okay. That was his job.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
We're doing this in 2026, right? So there are real heroes on the ground who are doing this, and we're very reliant on those guys. But of course, it doesn't percolate upwards. So if things get done, you don't ask how.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of hidden issues that don't percolate upwards, but you are seeing it in rising costs, more errors, delays, and you're wondering where they're coming from. And again, everyone's trying to solve it within their silo, but they need to start thinking cross-functionally. So when you were asking me there, how do people get started? So what we tend to see is 3 different directions where we get customers coming to us. Usually after they've tried a number of within department solutions without success. So
Yes.
the first angle would often be from an engineering perspective, where they're finding that they're getting lots of problems with what they're offering to the market. There's production stuff because it can't be manufactured, and it's coming back on them to solve it. So they're using their best resources trying to figure out what's going on. So for them, they realize that, okay, we need to connect the engineering with the other systems. We need to make sure that the data is aligned and validated before it goes to market. So you need to control what you're offering. So that's where we often get involved in that sense, often together with a PLM partner like our strategic partner, PDC, who we work a lot with, and we go to market with quite a bit. So you should see a lot of information about us and PDC and PLM plus CLM. So that's out there. But that's one starting point where it's engineering taking the lead and saying, okay, we need to align this. You could also see it from the ERP side too. I mean, there's a lot of migration going to from SAP LOVC to AVC or to S4 HANA. That's causing some issues as well, where we also can help. So you can see it from that point of view. We can see that the engineers are coming in to try and align and validate data before it's offered to the market. So that's one starting point that you can have. Another starting point is coming from the sales side, where you're seeing, like, maybe you're on your second, third, fourth CPQ project, trying to improve the experience the customer is having. As I said, the product can be very, very complex, and a lot of these off-the-shelf CPQ systems struggle with that, especially from the configuration point of view. Pricing and quality and quoting is normally not the issue, but they struggle with the actual configuration. There's lots of options and lots of interdependencies that has to be managed in runtime when they're using the algorithms that they're using. So you experience then it's poor performance, or you run into dead ends, or again you're ordering something that can't be delivered. So we get customers coming from that angle as well, and it comes back to, again, connecting the sales with the engineering, making sure that the information is valid, that there's no mistakes, that you don't get dead ends, that you're only offering valid things to the market, and that it can be delivered. So it's two different angles to the same problem, if you like. And then the third approach is usually a strategic approach, where you find that the organization has seen that we need to change our business model. They may have been offering product variants, they may have been ETO, and they're like, we need to move to something more like configure to order. Maybe not 100%, but we do need to move in that direction. And any percentage of CTO saves a lot of money, a lot of time, frees up engineering resources. So it's actually very beneficial to go in that route, but they need help. And it's like, well, how do we do it? And where can we help? And again, it's about establishing that cross-functional shared source of truth that everyone can work off of, and that model that you can offer to the market. And one of the unique things that we can offer there, of course, is you can actually carve out a piece of it to say, right, if you want a module and you want to customize that module, then we can offer some partial engineering to order as part of the offering. Sure. And for a lot of manufacturers, that's actually a competitive advantage. It's a differentiator for them, that we can also meet your specific needs. So having a configure to order process where you have a little bit of engineer to order in there is actually the winning formula for many of them. So we often see some coming from that direction as well.
Excellent.
So Dan, Joe, just as we wrap up today, real quick, just to kind of tie it together, I know we talked at the beginning about the TLM Summit, May 6th and 7th. For those that attend, what do you hope that they learn from participating in the summit this year?
So this is our 11th edition, and last year we had over 400 attendees. So we have a nice community of people who are interested in this topic and understanding more about it. And of course, we've talked a lot about configuration lifecycle management, what it can do, how you can use it. The interesting thing for me this year is that we're looking at it in the context of AI and digital threads as well. So we're adding that to the theme. We're obviously going to talk about customization challenges. That's the main theme of the event. So that's something that you can do today, that you can profit from today. But there is another reason to start looking at this, and that is as we move to agentic AI and try to look at how we can use that to automate processes in manufacturing, you begin to quickly realize that you're going to need some reliable data foundation underneath it. Gen AI and agentic AI are not inherently deterministic. And you need that in manufacturing. You need to have some predictability in what you're doing and repeatability. That's not what Gen AI is designed to offer you. But when you combine that together with technology like we have with virtual tabulation, that can provide the guardrails that you need and the reliable data source that can power an agentic AI or a digital thread in what you're doing. So we want to explore that this year in the CLM Summit, and we have some exciting speakers coming in talking about that topic specifically. Some of them with a lot of expertise in AI and are at the coalface. So we're going to have some really good discussions on that point. And you'll be hearing also from all of our product managers. You'll be hearing from a lot of our customers as well, talking about their journey and how they've implemented this as well. So I think for the practitioners out there, the people who want to understand how do I get started with this, I think you'll get a lot of you'll get a lot of inspiration from the speakers that we have coming to the summit this year.
Well, thank you. That's it sounds really exciting. It's a lot of things you've talked about today. Sounds like there are things that we'll learn about by attending the summit. So that's fantastic. Yeah. So I just want to thank you, Dan, Joe, for taking time to join us to discuss this issue of complexity of customization and personalization. And again, as you alluded to, we want to remind our audience about the upcoming Configuration Lifecycle Management Summit 2026, which will be held on May 6th and 7th. To register for the summit, we'd like you to go to this website right here, and you can sign up there. It's not it's a short process. So I encourage you to go do that and take a look and be part of this wonderful event that's upcoming in May. So with that, we'd like to encourage the Industry 4.0 Club would like to encourage you to take action. Initiate learning about configuration management. Go down that road. Attend a workshop, read an article, or even start a smart manufacturing roadmap for your factory. So we'd love to hear from you and hear what you're doing to improve and integrate Industry 4.0 into your business. So please leave us a note on our website at www.industry40club.com or on our website, or on our LinkedIn page, so that we can hear what you're doing and really share that with others. If you're also interested in being on a future fireside chat, we'd love to have you. Again, go to our website, www.industry40club.com, or our LinkedIn page, and let us know if you'd like to be on one of our future broadcasts. With that, Dan, Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
been great.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Mike, thank you as well.
Of course.
And we wish everybody a wonderful rest of the day, and hope we see you at the summit.
Excellent. Take care. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.